if I had an opportunity to let these little young sahabs know something, to take care of y'all bodies, you know what I mean? Don't take care of y'all chicken. You feel me? Don't take care of y'all mentals, because look, when you ask them
Okay, see, I'm a tad bit eclectic. Thoughts tangential and Tourettic. Sprinkle ADHD and my dreams become prophetic. Deaths and overdoses, suicides and wedding dresses. A curse that devolves and messes over a gift that truly blesses. Visions of a future of successes. Yet me, none of these ladies are impressed with. Girls be thinking I'm obsessive or I'm thirsty.
But how do I tell them I feel unworthy?
They say the grass is always greener on the other side, but you never see it till you die. So why the hell do I try? I feel like everything I do is wrong, and that is why I spend my time trying to ride. Why my life is like a lie. They say the grass is always greener on the other side, but you never see it till you die. So why the hell do I try? I feel like everything I do is wrong, and that is why I spend my time trying to ride. Why my life is like a lie. I can write, direct, and act. Can even rhyme and rap. Humble and don't see it as a big deal, why is that? I was used, abused, beaten, battered, made to sat and play by myself, yeah, it's whack. See, I grew up lonely and sad, got angry like my dad, spit venom like my mom, and grew to hate myself along the way. I never learned the social skills to play in the world, but shit was just a fad. I've finally gone full man. They say the grass is always greener on the other side, but you never see it till you die. So why the hell do I try? I feel like everything I do is wrong, and that is why I spend my time trying to ride. Why my life feels like a lie. They say the grass is always greener on the other side, but you never see it till you die. So why the hell do I try? I feel like everything I do is wrong, and that is why I spend my time trying to ride. Why my life feels like a lie. Imposter syndrome makes me mope.
Tell them.
My emotions are a kaleidoscope. When a word says that make me feel worthy, yet nope. Therapy has taught me how to cope.
Damn.
I've learned it can't be done by smoking dope,
Or
getting blackout drunk like a trope,
or
meeting women to unrobe and probe,
or
getting busy cause it makes my heart want to explode.
Damn.
I've learned you just gotta meditate when
damn.
you feeling angry and you straight hating.
Damn.
Life and your friends think you're flaking.
Damn.
If only they could know why I'm debating.
Damn.
If only women knew what I was waiting.
Tell them.
Easy for the other guys, for me frustrates, and my brain's in another dimension, translates in the pain in my heart as I write this praying. They say the grass is always greener on the other side, but you never see it till you die. So why the hell do I try? I feel like everything I do is wrong, and that is why I spend my time trying to ride. Why my life feels like a lie. They say the grass is always greener on the other side, but you never see it till you die. So why the hell do I try? I feel like everything I do is wrong, and that is why I spend my time trying to ride. Why my life feels like a lie. If you got problems in your life, or you just feel like you need to talk to somebody, please do. It's important to take care of our mental health, because otherwise, we're crazy like the rest of the world. I hope you find peace and love. Walking down the street, chickens blowing kisses. Never thought I'd end up 28 without a missus. Yet here we are, yeah, it's totally a thing. Making this movie about my life in quarantine. Started out hype, living life as a pirate. Then it got eclectic as time began to riot. Filmed my thoughts, what a terrible idea. Had a party over Zoom and got diarrhea. Ran out of toilet paper, life felt like forfeit. Turn on the news, an invasion of hornets. That's when it really truly started to unravel. I truly wish I could go motherfracking travel like toilet paper Jesus. Toilet paper Jesus. Toilet paper Jesus. Toilet paper Jesus. I wanna be a vagabond, maybe I'm a Cylon. I should have killed them hornets with a motherfracking mask on. Covered in ketchup, man, I think I messed up. Need a therapist that will help me fill my loving cup. No, not with beer, they really need to steer this conversation with myself a light year away from beer that need to poop and seize us. Sorry socks, it don't please us. Holy fracking crap, is that toilet paper Jesus? Toilet paper Jesus. 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 Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Lights Thunder Action, episode 18, live streaming directly into your homes and phones via Facebook and HWWS WebTV channel on YouTube. I am Thomas Carter Rochester, aka the Son of Dale.
And I'm David Thompson, aka... Oh, you thought I was going to do a Bane impression, but I'm not. But I really enjoy Bane impressions. And I wish I could do a good one because I would have liked to do it right there, but I just don't want to butcher it. But I really love Bane impressions and just Bane's voice talking Dark Knight Rises today. Anyway, teaser for that conversation. I like Bane more than I think most people do. And I even like his voice. But anyway, yeah. How you doing, Thomas? What's up?
I'm good, man. It has been a long, weird week. I'm surprised we made it to. Is today Saturday or Sunday?
Today is Saturday, I believe.
I'm surprised I've made it to Saturday. Been getting a lot of things done, reviewing contracts, interviews, getting prepped for Harlecon in 2 weeks from today. Wink. David, How are you doing, man? Before we do that, we're going to jump right into what the news. This man right here just graduated yesterday. He is now a certified genius. It's a Bachelor of Science in multi-platform journalism, right?
That is what they gave me, apparently, yes.
You are a professional
I tricked them out of it, yeah.
Hey, man, I did the same thing for my degree.
But, yeah, it was definitely a weird, I graduated virtually, obviously, and that was just kind of odd, but it was still good. I mean, I'm glad it's over with. I'm glad it's official. I kind of have felt like I've been graduated for like a couple months now because I've been out of class, but it's definitely nice to have the little ceremony and get everything out of the way. But yeah, anyway, today's show, we got a lot to discuss. I mean, the news isn't as big of a news as always, but The Dark Knight Rises is coming. We'll be doing that at the second half of this podcast. Can't wait for that. It'll be finishing off our second trilogy of trilogies, The Dark Knight Trilogy. We'll be capping it off today with The Dark Knight Rises. Also, we will be announcing who won the second part. Well, now it's going to be the third trilogy of trilogies. Who won that round of tournament? Who you guys voted for? We'll be announcing that momentarily. And then the news. We have a lot going on today. Not as much news-wise, but we have The Mandalorian, a lot of Emmys. And a big Universal AMC deal has been made. So tune in, stay tuned for all of that good stuff. Also, if you're not live with us right now, or if you cannot catch all of this show, you can find us, our audio podcast. We post this whole show in an audio podcast form on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and our hosting site, Spreaker. Check it all out there. If you can't check out the whole show, if you're driving, going on a run, do whatever, that is where you can find our audio feed for our podcast. All right, Thomas, what else we got?
What else do we got? That is such a wonderful question. As I said at the top of the show, we are live streaming directly to our Facebook page. That would be Lights Thunder Action Show. You can see it popped up on your screen there now if you're watching, or to HWWS WebTV on YouTube. And you can also follow us at LTA Podcasting on the Twitter to stay stay up to date to all of what we have going on. It is it's my favorite part of the day, man. Tournament of the Tournament of Trilogies Part 2. David, can hold on. I actually might give me one second. Can I get a drum roll, please, David? And your winner is none other than Star Wars. Yes, it says Star Wars. It has won.
What an upset. Just kidding.
So Star Wars won. Listen to this: 184-75. I thought Indiana Jones was going to put up more of a fight than Jurassic Park. And throughout the week, I wasn't sure Star Wars was going to come anywhere close to what it got last week. But in 2 weeks, Star Wars has averaged 186 votes.
Yep.
Wild.
It's
wild.
It's unsurprising to me. I mean, it is the OG Star Wars trilogy we're talking about here.
Yes.
I mean, we're not, I don't know. It's hard for it to be beaten, but yeah, it definitely has been overwhelming. Thanks to you guys. Thank you guys for voting. We really appreciate it. And it's been really fun because we've seen this absolute juggernaut of Star Wars wreck through the Tournament of Trilogies. And now it's coming up. It is going to be our next trilogy. I'm excited. A New Hope. It'll be fun. I mean, I just can't wait to do that trilogy. It's one you have to do it, especially on this show.
Yes.
We talk a lot of comics and sci-fi and stuff like that. Like the Star Wars OG trilogy. I'm happy it's up so high up on our list in order of how many trilogies we're going to be doing. So very exciting. Thanks everyone for voting. Star Wars OG coming soon.
Not only coming soon, but it came in hot. Like a star destroyer, no, like the Death Star's beam into Alderaan. Too soon? No, not too soon. It was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So now I'm sure everyone is thinking, well, what's the next tournament of trilogies? I'm glad you asked. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to present to you the fattest tournament of trilogies yet. And more importantly than that, not only is it fat, it has a great name. It is now time for the Tournament of Trilogies. Trilogies Rise. We've decided to postpone doing Star Wars from next week. We moved it back just 1 week, and that gave us an opportunity to stuff in more trilogies for you all to vote.
Yep.
This week, we have Toy Story versus Godfather and John Wick versus Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy.
Yes. Vote for Spidey.
Hey, we're supposed to be impartial-ish.
Am I?
Don't go campaigning for votes.
Okay.
Peter Parker.
Never mind. All right. Vote for
Or should I say
want.
Penis Parker?
Oh my gosh. Don't bring that back.
Bringing it back. Back from when we were friends from work. I wanted to change it up just a little bit because I enjoy having a lot more trilogies. This could be a format to continue in the future.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. I mean, I took 45 minutes to get the stupid lines made, so it's kind of a big deal now. But this week, live right now, as of 10 minutes ago, Toy Story versus Godfather on our Facebook page of Lights, Thunder, Action Show. And John Wick versus Raimi's Spider-Man went live 9 minutes ago at 6:08 p.m. Central Standard Time, 7:08 Eastern. After that, after this week, we will then go to one battle a week. It'll be Jurassic Park versus the winner of John Wick and Raimi's Spider-Man, and Indiana Jones versus the winner of Godfather and Toy Story. And then after that week, which will be our final week, we will decide, you lovely lot will decide the winner of the Tournament of Trilogies. And boy, I'm just excited for this incarnation, David.
Yeah.
Because I have zero clue what's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, obviously we have Indiana Jones at 1 and Jurassic Park at 2 because they've already been through the Tournament of Trilogies. They've had some production to their name.
Oh, yes.
But we have some new movies popping in, some new trilogies. I mean, the Godfather trilogy, it's one that I have shamefully never seen, and I have heard just amazing things about it. Obviously, the first and it's the second the most. And Toy Story, unfortunately, it's been in it a few times, but it hasn't performed well. But we keep putting it in there. John Wick, that should be exciting. And obviously, like I said earlier, I'm supposed to be impartial or whatever, but Spider-Man, vote for Spidey. That's where my heart is. So all very exciting. And I think it's a good thing that we're going to take a bye week next week, have a different kind of show next week, and then hop back right back into the Tournament of Trilogies and the Trilogy of Trilogies segment with A New Hope. So super exciting. Everyone go vote. Those two for this week are up live on the Lights, Thunder, Action Show Facebook page. So please go vote. Thank you guys so much.
And before we move on, I want to again reiterate. That's not. Is that visible? Let's see. Pop up on my iPad over here. I want to reiterate the rankings.
Visible-ish.
The seedings really mean absolutely nothing. Like, in all honesty, they mean nothing. They're just there for the sake of being there.
They're
However,
placeholders.
if they have amounts of if they have votes, they go up higher. I like to do it week by week, or excuse me, tournament by tournament. So in this last tournament, Indiana Jones amassed 111 votes. Jurassic Park, in its only single solitary appearance, had 98 votes. So that's why they're 1 and 2. Toy Story had 19 votes. If Toy Story does not amass at least 40 votes,
You gotta just cut it.
we're gonna have to postpone it till a later date, which is gonna make a lot of my friends happy. For just saying that, a lot of my brothers there. I'm very, very, very excited. I have a feeling that it's gonna come down to Godfather. I think Godfather's gonna win out because it has.
Okay.
It's got a different cultural following than, say, Indiana Jones. Like my mom, I don't think my mom loves Indiana Jones, but I'm pretty sure she loves The Godfather.
Yeah.
So there's that.
I don't know, actually. This one's kind of tough because I think John Wick and Spider-Man could be really close because John Wick's just it's more mainstream and newer than Spider-Man is, but there's also, I think, in our audience and like our following, there's like gonna be a lot of like Spider-Man fans, at least I hope anyway. So it's hard to tell. And then they take on, I believe it's Jurassic Park then, if whoever does that in the next round. Yeah. So the problem I think with this is that I would like Indiana Jones's odds if Godfather probably won't come in the next round.
Yeah.
But because of that, I don't know. We'll see. I kind of agree. I think it's probably going to either be Godfather or maybe Jurassic Park. I don't know. It really depends. I think the voting has been fairly consistent with stuff, and those have performed like fairly well. So we'll see. No juggernauts, I don't think. And because we're expanding it like this, it makes it way more hard to tell how it'll be. I'm excited for next week and the weeks after to, keep up with the polls and check out your guys' votes because I think we've been a bit surprised by some of them. So it's pretty exciting and can't wait for next week.
Yes, very much same. Before we move on to what the news, I just want to say hello to everyone in the comments. Terry McIver is here with us. Terry has a wonderful question. What year is it? I genuinely have no fracking idea. Willow Schuyler from the Reels and Heels team is with us. Hello, Willow. Coming all the way from Canada, eh? Jen Hogan is here with us. Oh, she called us men. I feel like an adult now.
Yeah, me too.
Hello, Jen. And then, of course, everyone's sending their congratulations to you, David, Terry,
Thanks, everyone.
Jen,
Appreciate it.
Willow, Mom. I got to come up. Oh, Mama Thor. That's what everyone calls her. Jen says Twitter is popular with the young folks.
I love Twitter.
Oh, okay. So I don't know. I said I'm there. My mom says go Godfather, which I knew that was coming. She's gonna vote for that probably over all of the other ones. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for everyone's favorite segment of the day. What the news?
What the news this week, ladies and gentlemen? The Mandalorian is on fire. We all enjoyed Mandalorian season 1. We know Mandalorian season 2 is coming, and we even know Mandalorian season 3 is coming. But Mandalorian season 1 is getting the recognition I think we both agree it deserves. So it scored 15 Emmy nominations, including Best Drama Series, which is obviously one of the more, I guess, like top tier Emmy nominations you could snag. So it's very exciting. I can run through all of them if we would like, but
yes,
sure. Do you want your initial thoughts first, Thomas, or want me to run through them?
Run through them because I've heard them already, but I don't remember them all.
Sure. Okay. It's a bit of a doozy. All right. Outstanding character voiceover performance. Taika Waititi as IG-11 in Chapter 8 specifically. Outstanding production design for a narrative program, half hour. Mandalorian Chapter 1. And then it lists the production designer, art director, and set decorator. And then outstanding cinematography for a single camera series, half hour again, for Chapter 7. It's cool that it's by, well, in this case, chapters by episode. So it's pretty interesting that way. It's pretty detailed, and I think it makes it easier if like, oh, you want to see why they were nominated. You can go back and specifically watch an episode to see, why.
Yes.
So anyway, that's pretty cool. Cinematography for chapter 7. Okay, this is a little more general. Outstanding sci-fi fantasy costumes. The Mandalorian chapter 3. So that, and then it lists all their like costume designers.
Which, as a reminder, that was the first episode where we got to see more Mandos.
Yeah, that's the episode called chapter The Sin.
The Sin, yes.
Yeah. So there's that. Okay, and then outstanding single camera picture editing for a drama series for chapter 2, The Child. So outstanding single camera picture editing. Pretty specific for a drama series. So yes,
and they've got 3 editors. We're not going to list all the people, but they have 3 editors from 3 different chapters on that as well. So the odds are great for them.
Yeah. Outstanding prosthetic makeup for a series, limited series, movie, or special. So shout out to the makeup for chapter 6 of The Mandalorian. It lists all the artists there, a lot of them, makeup artists. Outstanding music composition for a series, original dramatic score. This one, to me, is like, come on. It's for chapter 8, Redemption. But overall, I think throughout the series, I loved the music of The Mandalorian. So I think I might be most passionate about that one, that I want them to win. I'd have to see what's going up against, I guess.
I 100% agree with that. And that would give him not only an Emmy if he wins, that is the same man who won an Oscar for Black Panther.
Wow. Yeah. So
yeah. So he's jumped up really high, really fast into one of my favorite score
composers.
Thank you. That was the word. Composers for film.
Yeah.
He's up there with Hans Zimmer, which we're going to talk about some Hans Zimmer today. Baby, those drums. John Williams, Michael Giacchino, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Next up, outstanding guest actor in a drama series for Giancarlo Esposito. Pretty cool. I think that's a pretty neat Emmy to be nominated for if you're Mr. Esposito. So he won't be a guest probably next season, but
no, he's a regular next season, and he also got nominated for best supporting actor in a drama for Better Call Saul as Gus from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
So he got double nominated.
Next up, outstanding drama series. So that's the highlight. That's like the top tier, kind of I don't know the word I'm looking for. Basically, probably
creme
the most
creme
de la creme, the most important one, probably the one they want to win the most. Genuinely, outstanding drama series, The Mandalorian. So that's as a whole, the entire series. Moving on, outstanding sound editing for a comedy or drama series, half hour, and animation. It's for specifically chapter 1, and it lists a ton of editors. So congrats to them. Hopefully they see if they win. Outstanding sound mixing for a comedy or drama series, half hour, and animation. So that the previous one was for sound editing. This next one's for sound mixing. That they shout out chapter 2 for The Mandalorian. The next one, outstanding special visual effects. This one, they referenced chapter 2, but I mean, after watching Gallery and how they used, what did they call it again? The
gallery?
No, the crazy screen thing.
The volume.
The volume, yeah.
Or as I like to call it, George's Garage.
Yeah, exactly. So that's pretty cool when they're up for outstanding stunt coordination for a drama series, limited series, or movie. It's just The Mandalorian straight up, and they reference, or the nominations for Ryan Watson, the stunt coordinator. So congrats to him. That's it. And congrats to everyone on The Mandalorian, everyone nominated. I think this kind of shows this is going along with, I think, how everyone felt about The Mandalorian. It's giving them a lot of credit for all the different things they did in that show, and not just story-wise, but even just, I mean, a lot of it is like, the sound and how it looks and all these different things. So pretty fantastic. Congrats to all of them. And Thomas, what do you think?
I saw that, and I did a hard fist pump at work when it popped up in my news feed. I'm very happy for them because they put in a lot of work, and they took something that a lot of people were skeptical about, and they did exactly what everyone was hoping they would do, and then some, with creating an original tale set in the Star Wars universe that feels both tied to the lore from before. I did rhyme that on purpose, as well as standing out on its own as a show. And they all deserve every amount of recognition. One last little thing for Emmy noms. I'm looking for the actual listings, but I'm pretty sure Watchmen had the most nominations overall. Yeah. I think they had like 18 or 19, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not finding a breakdown, but Watchmen, which is a show that I've not seen. David, have you seen that?
I have not seen Watchmen. Nope. I've been recommended to see Watchmen though, but I have not actually sat down and watched it. Nope.
As
on
have
HBO.
I.
But yeah.
Well, I can fix that for you. You've been hounding me for it for a while, so yeah, I just don't have the time to watch it, sadly.
Same.
Yeah, excited. What do we got next?
Moving on, Justice League. Oh man, DC fandom is just gonna be fantastic, is the bottom line.
Yes.
But Zack Snyder came out and said the official title, the format, and the teaser will all be revealed at DC Fandom. I think the most exciting part is, well, all are very exciting, especially, I mean, the teaser will be probably most just because it's something you can really get your hands on. But knowing there's going to be an official title, that's interesting. I'm rooting for it to be a movie format. I mean, if they do like a TV show, 6-part, whatever they would do. Sorry,
I'm a child.
Yes. If they do like if they do some other like TV format, or however they like split it up into parts for HBO Max, they're gonna announce it there. So Zack Snyder was a part of a Q&A, and that's where we got this information from. He said, the question was basically asking about when they'll find out all this stuff. He goes, end quote, you'll find out at Fandom, but I think I did tell Grace that it was longer than 214 minutes now. Either way, 100% I'll be happy. Look, the truth is, regardless of how it comes out, you'll be watching it in one sitting. So that was pretty funny comment. And honestly, it's so true. Like, that's why I kind of wanted this to be a film, because I think the parts, if it's going to be in this like parts chapter like story, just make it in a film format for me anyway. Like, don't make me click another button just to keep moving on. Just tell the story like that. That's how you want to tell the story.
Well, I think it would autoplay. So I haven't watched a series on HBO Max yet, but
it's gonna be. I mean, it was directed as a film. That was supposed to be a theatrical released film. So I don't know. That's probably the most irrelevant part to me. To be honest, I'm gonna watch. Like you said, I'm gonna watch all of it at the same time anyway. Getting an official title will be really cool if it is like a different, not just Justice League, I guess, not Zack Snyder's Justice League. So that's fascinating. And then also just the teaser trailer, last week we obviously talked about the clip that came out of seeing Henry Cavill in a Superman suit that is black.
Yes. Which was CGI, by the way. I don't know if you saw that this week.
Yeah, I think you told me that. And that actually was very interesting. So yeah, the teaser trailer, that'd be awesome to get our hands on, see and feel how different it is than the original. I think that'll just be great, even if it's just 30 seconds. I mean, that little clip of of Henry Cavill and Alfred got us fired up. So a teaser is going to be great. Thomas, what were your thoughts on this news when you saw it come out?
I don't even, what day did this come out really quick? I just need to see the 26th. I don't even know. That was like Monday or Sunday. That was Sunday. That was the day after we did our show. That's why it feels like it's so long ago.
Yeah.
I was very excited. And speaking of fandom, I saw a couple tweets from actors. Camrys Johnson, who plays Luke Fox is his name. Lucius Fox's son in Batwoman.
Okay.
He had a full walkthrough of everything. And he said it is, he said it's going to be hype. Is basically what he said. He's very excited for it, and it's going to be blowing all of the fans' minds. And what's very interesting to me, I don't think you've ever watched the show Krypton.
I haven't. Nope.
I highly recommend it. But Wallace Day, who was on Krypton and was rumored to be on Batwoman, was rumored to be in the running to take over as Batwoman, excuse me. She said, "Oh my God, I know, right?" So people are wondering if there's going to be an announcement of Krypton coming back, but on like HBO Max or on DC or potentially on CW, because it's just a really good show, and they tried to tie it in.
Where did it come out? It was on Sci-Fi?
It was on Sci-Fi.
Okay,
yes.
Yeah, I kind of remember that, and I remember thinking like, "Oh, that's odd that DC shows on Sci-Fi." But
yes,
that could be interesting.
I thought it was odd as well, and I didn't watch it, but Adamir Azari was like, "You need to watch it. It's really good."
Yeah.
Holy balls, he was not kidding, dude. Like the end of season 1 made me so upset because I had to wait for season 2. And when season 2 came out, I was busy. And by the time season 2 ended, they'd already announced it was canceled. So I was like,
so it only has 2 seasons?
Only has 2 seasons. I have yet to watch it. I know I'm sad. It's okay, though, because maybe it'll come back.
Yeah, we'll see.
One last little note there. Martin Time did try to tie in the show Krypton into the DC crossover with the main character who plays Superman's grandfather. But
cool.
Right. Oh my God. But he was filming and he couldn't make the schedule. That was the only reason it didn't occur, because scheduling conflicts. So
wow. Of course.
Good old scheduling conflicts. Which brings us to the big kahuna.
Yeah, this is, in my opinion, the biggest news of the week. The other two was just kind of like hype. Let's get excited, and congrats to the Mandalorian, and get even more excited for the Snyderverse. But this is something that I think is really pivotal in the world we live in now, especially as us movie fans who want to be in the theater and are going to be wanting to go back, or just care so much about film or just like new movies releasing, that this could greatly affect us. So a few weeks ago, or maybe even a couple months ago now, it was, the news came out. We talked about it on this show, how Universal and Universal and AMC were like, AMC was saying, "Oh, we're not gonna let any of your movies into our theaters," because they were putting stuff on straight to VOD. Like they were not gonna delay movies, delay, as we've seen with other films, obviously, like Tenet, for instance. They were just popping some movies out on straight to VOD at like a higher price, and AMC's like, "What the heck? We want some of the money." Like they need the money. They need Universal Pictures to go in their movies theaters, but they just felt like they were just upset about it. And anyway, flash forward to today. AMC and Universal have come to a historic deal. That's how it's being referred to, as an historic deal, so AMC is only going to require Universal to have a 17-day exclusive for the theatrical releases, meaning that only for like 17 days will Universal have to have their theaters only in AMC theaters, and then before they can put them through VOD. But the real kicker to this is that I think is brilliant on AMC's part, especially in their like economic stress right now that we've been going on about the show on since the beginning of the show. AMC will get a chunk of the VOD sales. So that's, I think, what's the brilliant part of it. I think that's where they kind of met in the middle, where AMC is now like it's proof to me showing that things are going to be like, there's a lot of things I think in the world that I think a lot of people are kind of getting like, are going to have to adjust with post, whatever post COVID-19 will be, where there's going to be almost like some things will never quite be the same again. And movies, in this case, may be one of those. I mean, I'm sure for Universal won't be all their films, but it could be some of them. And it could be some in the near future when there are still COVID-19 concerns and people aren't rushing out to the theater and they want to go on VOD soon. So anyway, it also says that the premium retails could be around $20 for a 24-hour span. So it's not like, so AMC, so theoretically, say this is Fast and the Furious. That's a Universal picture. I'm sure they won't do it with this. But theoretically, if they wanted to do this plan, it would be Fast and Furious would be in theaters for 17 days. After that, you could rent it. After the 17 days, anyone could rent it for $20 for 24 hours. It's not that you can buy it after the 17 days. It's just that, hey, if you want to sit and watch it from home, pay us $20. You can have it for 24 hours. Enjoy the film. So, and to me, this could be a sign of things to come for the film industry as a whole, for other studios, for other theaters, especially with AMC getting a chunk out of it. That I think is, and I think it's worrisome that I think there might become a point where theaters won't be getting a chunk out of it, because it's definitely leading in the direction where they are right now, but who knows for how long. And it's money, they're going to follow the money, the movie studios. So if they see that they can be competitive, especially with like lower tier films, like Universal put out, I think they put out Scoob, right? I think it was Universal. They at least did Trolls World Tour. I know for a fact they did Trolls.
They did Trolls,
and that did well, all things considered, on VOD. So it's kind of like movies like that, like a kids film or like just a lower budget movie, not like Fast and Furious or something huge from Universal, or like oh my gosh, James Bond, but like something that's not as high in their economic calendar, where they didn't have to pay a ton of money to produce it. This VOD, plan formula may be something they go to early and often nowadays, and could change the way we watch films. I'm gonna still want to see them in theaters. Yes, but that's just me. So, Thomas, what were your thoughts? Lay it on me.
Well, but before I do that, the Invisible Man, I don't remember if it actually was able to make it into theaters.
I think momentarily.
It was February 28th that made it into theaters, but it was one of the movies that was released on digital. The King of Staten Island also was released digitally, but that went straight to Amazon Prime.
Yep.
And it looks like Candyman was released, it looks like June 12th. No, that's not true. That one was pushed back. Some of these have not come out yet. Yes, those looks like the movies that have come out so far, but it was The Invisible Man, which made a lot of it looks like $64.9 million in its theatrical run, which appears to be a very short time. And it also it definitely has made good money on the VOD, because I know a lot of people have been raving about this movie, and I know they don't go to theaters.
Right.
So so in terms of the deal itself, I was very excited to see this, mostly because we called it. It was just a billionaire pissing match.
Yeah.
Drawn out into the public display.
We did. I forget what episode that was, but we were like, this is a bunch of garbage. Like, there's just no way. They need each other, really, is the bottom line. And I think AMC almost needs Universal more than the other way around. Because with other theaters, there's other chains that Universal could just be like, hey, go to that one. I don't know. I mean, it's not.
And Regal was like, we're not going to show your movies either. And then I don't know whatever happened with that. I don't remember hearing anything about them keeping that.
It's all about, I mean, especially at the time, it's like they're just playing chicken, because there's not any movies coming out anytime soon anyway. So they can't even they can't really even put their money where their mouth is until whatever 2027 or whenever we get a movie into the theaters again. But anyway,
2784. The one thing that I really want to mention here is, if I have the option to go see it in theaters or rent it for $20 at home, I'm always going to go to the theater.
Well, especially with an AMC A-List or a Regal Unlimited. I mean, that's $20 a month, around $20 a month. And that's basically unlimited movies every month, or it's like 3 a week for AMC. So essentially, why would I mean, but if you don't, it's really if you just don't want to go to the theater. I mean, and especially for kids movies, I could see where that would be a thing. I mean, I totally could see where, even though when I was a kid, even though they're actually for a part of when I was a child, I hated going to the movie theater. It scared me. But anyway, yeah, it was just too loud. I was bad with noises and stuff. And I'm like, I remember I freaked out by like one trailer played out, like one like scary like trailer happened one time. And I'm like, all right, I can't do movies ever again. So for me, when I was a little kid, this would have been great, because a new movie would have come out after like 2 weeks, and then we could have gotten it on VOD. So
I agree. For me as a kid, this would have been amazing, because my parents hated taking me to the theater.
Yeah, and I mean,
Mom.
I think a lot of people hate taking their kids to the theater. It costs a lot of money. You have to, they're gonna go to the bathroom. They're gonna be talking. You gotta be embarrassed. Like, I know, like sometimes when I'm just in a theater and I see like maybe a family coming in and like some kids and stuff, I'm like, oh, please be well behaved.
I agree with you so much on that. I'm like, oh no,
Yeah,
kids.
that's like the only problem with seeing like a kids movie, because like, oh great, like is it gonna be loud?
But you also got to think, like, especially for my parents, there was no at home watch a movie at home unless it was on TV.
VHS, yeah,
yeah. Oh no, I'm talking like the 60s and the 70s. That didn't exist.
Yeah.
You know, my dad saw Star Wars twice in theaters, and then he didn't get to see it again until it came out on like a VHS in the 80s at some point.
Yeah, I was thinking. I thought you said when you were a kid. Oh,
no, when they were a kid. And so when I was a kid, we had the VHS. So I mean, my grandma bought every Disney movie, so I saw pretty much every Disney movie, and whatever we had, I'd watch, and I'd watch it all the time, and that was enough to satiate me from, you know, not begging them to go to the theaters all the time.
Yeah.
But about the time I turned 13, that shirt went out of the window, and I was like, get me in the theater. There's something about the experience, because it was a novelty to me.
Yeah.
Going to the theater was a novelty because my parents didn't want to go to the theater. And now it's still a novelty to me because there really is nothing like it.
Yeah, it is funny. I think that's probably one of the things we hold so much in common between us two, that like that feeling where it's like, just going to the theater, it's just so great. And people don't get it. You know, that's the biggest thing, is that I feel like we're in the minority where people like going to the theater, and it's like, all right, cool, I'm going to go see a movie at the movies. You know, I'm going to go to the movies like it's an event. But me, it's like, if I want to watch a film, I want it to be there. And I care. I would just go there just to see whatever movie, just gotta enjoy it so much. And I've gone on about it on the show before, just the etiquette of it, the built-in just etiquette of movie theaters. I enjoy, like, put away your phones, put away your everything, be quiet, laugh, enjoy a collective and experience. I could drone on. But anyway, so this is exciting news. I think it is a sign of the times and the things to come. And I think, like we said, it could be a good move for families and people who aren't going to be rushing back to the theaters anytime soon. Yes. And there's going to be a collective of people that are going to be very cautious, that are in the high risk area, that have, you know, health problems where they physically like should not go back to the theaters anytime soon. So I think doing the VOD thing, having it be where, you know, you wait about a little over 2 weeks, and then you can see the new movie at home. I think it's a great idea. It's a great way to still get people like us in the theaters immediately. Anyway, Thomas, you have another thought?
Yeah, so it's 17 days. So if it releases in theaters on a Friday, it comes out on a Tuesday, basically 2 weeks later. So like, I see how they did that. You know, I do kind of want to move on really quick, but just use the comments as our segue. Terry says the renting of those movies works out value for money if and only if there's a few watching the movie at the same time on the same screen.
Right.
So
that's
like,
a good point.
For me, not conducive at all, because I'm gonna be the only one watching it. Now I will watch it twice, maybe 3 times if it's really good. But yeah, and it's just it is not the same. Mom says, "Yep, that's right." And then she said she saw The Exorcist and Jaws in theaters. Nope. Big fat nope to The Exorcist. I want to see Jaws in the theaters, but maybe. And then she said they need to make them cheaper. But here's the key, Mom. Here's the secret to going to the movies. Don't buy concessions.
Concessions, yeah.
I go to the movies frequently, and I would go in. If I do, I usually buy the kids pack because it's like $5 to $7. I get a little bit of popcorn, get a little bit of fruit gummies, get an icy. Perfect.
No, this is what I do. You know what I do? I bring in my water, but then I got the annual bucket, and it's $5 refills. It's like $20 to buy it, and I'm like, whatever. If you get it right, if you go all the time and you get it in January, I think what's great. I have a funny story about that. And then you take it every time. It's only $5, and sometimes you're feeling it, sometimes you're not, and you get unlimited refills, and it's a huge like plastic bucket. It's great, and you just bring your water, and it's just $5, and it's awesome. Anyway,
I always bring my water.
yeah, I know. But another thing about the bucket is I got the 2020 AMC bucket. I mean, that thing's just gonna be a relic in time because I used it once, and it's so infuriating actually, because I used the 2019 as far as I could. It was like February they got me, and I'm like, I'll get the 2021. And then like I used it for like one movie, and then everything shut down. So I gave it to my friend Kevin, because he'll remain an AMC A-lister probably. I'll probably be moving over to Regal whenever theaters open up, whenever that happens. But
2748.
yeah, exactly. So anyway, the bucket's great, movies are great, VOD, AMC.
Mom said she snuck in her snacks. Fun fact: some theaters you don't even have to sneak them in.
They don't care. Yeah,
because there's actually like no law that you can't bring in your own stuff. I take bananas in regularly because they ain't selling them at the.
That's a very good point. I forgot. Yeah, like if I'm bringing going with my girlfriend, I'm always like, all right, bring the big purse, because then we'll like go get like whatever, like some candy or like some soda or whatever we want, and then just like boop, big purse. No one asks any questions. Walk in, have my water, bang, and we're good to go. Because it's the candy, and I mean everything's expensive, but the candy is like outrageous at the movie theaters compared to like a Dollar Tree or something. We get like the same thing for a buck compared to like $9.
Last two comments are both from Terry McIver, and a beautiful segue. Thank you, Terry. He has a friend that makes the trip to London from Belfast, meaning he goes to another country to make sure he sees the movies he really wants to in IMAX. He saw all of the Dark Knight trilogy in London. Wait a minute. What's that sound? I again, we're gonna hop right in. The member berries of this movie. I don't know how many times I've seen this movie. I really can't remember. But when I was watching it today, I felt like I was watching it in the theaters for the first time, because it has been a very long time. And I did the surround sound and everything. And holy banana balls, bro. This movie is so much better than I remembered.
Exactly. I completely agree. So today we're going to go through Batman, The Dark Knight Rises. And then at the end, we're going to talk about the trilogy as a whole and kind of rank it a bit. So just to let you guys know how this is going to go. I agree, and I think I've seen it. I believe I'd seen it twice or three times before this viewing. For me, that's not a great deal, which is like a lot to some other people. But for me, it's like, that's not really that much.
That's very low.
Yeah. Which is funny because just like my girlfriend would be like, I've seen it twice. And I'm like, yeah, like
that's my dad. My dad's like, I've seen it once. And do you remember every single little detail and weird plot development that doesn't happen?
Yeah. And I think actually what's interesting about watching movies that I haven't seen in a while is that I think almost as I've gotten older, I see different illusions. I see different themes to movies as I've gotten older when I rewatch things, which is great. It's like you experience it from a different light, as you age and you get older and rewatch a film.
Yes.
So anyway, quick facts, as I always do, The Dark Knight Rises. 2 hours and 44 minutes. That's the runtime, and you feel it. I mean, I enjoy this film, like we just said, but I think you definitely feel the runtime, because it's just very multi-part film. It's not. There's a lot going on, but anyway,
there is a lot going on, and it is. We'll get it there. Continue.
And then release date 4 years, which I mean, it kind of helped. I'm sure at the time that it came out 4 years after The Dark Knight, because it is an 8-year gap in the actual universe. So 4 years after The Dark Knight came out, on July 20th, 2012, The Dark Knight Rises came out. So that is the release date. Obviously directed by Christopher Nolan. Once again, this is the Nolan Batman trilogy. And yeah, that's about it. Thomas, so you liked this film. You enjoyed it more than you expected. Why? What were some of the reasons?
Selena Kyle is potentially the MVP of this movie. Like
way better than I remembered
as a character. I mean, I love
Anne Hathaway in general.
I love Anne Hathaway.
I texted you that. I was just
you did. You're like, I love period this movie. Period. I love period Anne Hathaway. Holy crap. I love her acting and her what she brought to the character. She brings this very royal, regal, elegant to this really character who at times is considered trashy.
But it's great
and
at the
it's like-
beginning how she's so innocent, and then she flips that switch,
Like-
and you just see it in her face. I'm like, holy crap!
Yeah,
She's
it's
a great
like-
actress.
Oops. It's like,
Yeah.
whoa, wow.
So good.
She made mouths drool with that switch. She's the MVP. Michael freaking Caine. Okay, I cried 3 times in this movie today. 2 of them are because of Michael Caine.
Yeah. Did he cry at
Like,
the end?
Yeah, I cried. That's the picture I sent you.
Yeah.
Just tears streaming like a baby. And then the way that they weave the narrative of the litany of things that are happening in this movie. So we talked about Batman Begins and how it has a lot more going on than we remembered.
Mm-hmm.
But then Dark Knight takes it up a huge notch. Like that has Dark Knight, like we said last week, you can break down into a bunch of 15-minute segments, and those are 15-minute shorts that could be released, and then watch it in that kind of increment, like you're reading a comic book.
Yeah.
And Dark Knight Rises takes that to a whole new level.
Yeah. The Dark Knight Rises, I think, would make a great comic book run. Like if you know what I mean, it's kind of told like a comic book. That's interesting you said that, because that really makes sense to me in my mind with the Rises, because it is such a long. It's like 8 years have passed. That's a very comic book kind of thing. Like 8 years have gone by. He's all broken and out of shape, and then he comes back, and then he comes back up, and then he goes back right down, and then he comes back up. It's like that's such where that could have gotten spread over like 15 comic books, honestly, and it would have been great. But that's a really good analogy. I like that a lot. This movie is very multi-part, but I think what was most surprising to me rewatching this was how much, and it goes back to how we talked about how much The Dark Knight stands alone, is how much this movie is really a sequel to The Batman Begins, in some ways more so than The Dark Knight. The main connection.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
The Dark Knight is standalone, and Batman Begins in this movie, like you need The Dark Knight to get to Dark Knight Rises, but 100% this is a sequel to the first, and it's a great way to close the trilogy, I think. I
agree in this, and this movie gets a lot of hate for whatever reason. I mean, it's always been kind of like poo-pooed as like the worst one. Like people make fun of Bane and stuff, and I really like Bane. But going on for what I was just saying is that The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, the main connection there is Harvey Dent, and it's super interesting hearing all that and like seeing how they've kept the lie up for 8 years and how Gotham's actually been a better place, quote unquote, and all these things. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt is a great character in this movie. I really enjoy him. It's the whole Robin thing at the end. I remember when I first watched it, I'm like, it's kind of cheesy, kind of forced. But rewatching it, I'm like, I like it. It works. I do have some critiques with the movie, but honestly, this is going to be mostly positive for me. I mean, I have like, there's some things where I'm like, all right. I mean, it is 2 hours and 44 minutes long.
It's like a big critique.
It could have moved a bit. I think here's just to get them out of the way. One critique I have is the fight choreography. It doesn't have the same like there's only one scene, and you might not even know what scene I'm thinking of, where I think it was at its best was when it's Batman's back finally at nearing the end. When he's back, there's like 45 minutes to the bomb blows, and it's him and Catwoman, and he's like taking out those people in the tunnel, and it's like him popping up out of nowhere. Hopefully I can remember this. He's like, he just keeps popping up. He's like behind them. Like there's that part where he's getting shot at, and it's like do, and he's moving. That was awesome, and that was Batman to me, and that's how they kind of showed him in Batman Begins and a lot and Dark Knight too, where like he comes out of the dark and he is the darkness is his ally basically, because in this movie it's not, and there's
darkness is your ally.
Bane is good. I like Bane. I mean, he's not the Joker, but like that's the problem with the Dark Knight almost, because it's so good and everyone has to compare it to it. Like this movie has to be compared to the Dark Knight, and that's its worst. That's the worst part about it. That's its weakest part, because it has to be compared to its predecessor, and that's so hard to live up to. When this movie, I think it's good, and I think the characters are great. I enjoy Bane as a villain. I think he actually has an interesting interesting story.
But he's almost an anti-hero, just like Batman.
I mean,
he's a more extreme version. I think Bane. I bought into Bane more than I bought into Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah, well, Ra's al Ghul just kind of seemed the switch kind of flipped in that movie really quick, where it seemed like he was so great and was helping him, and they were doing great, and it's like, oh, but I'm gonna burn down Gotham, and then he's like, wait, don't do that, and then you don't talk to him for an hour, and then all of a sudden he's coming back to burn down Gotham.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! This movie to me is better than Batman Begins.
Same.
Which is funny because I feel like that's not normally that. I don't even think that's how I came into this trilogy of trilogies thinking. I think really? I didn't know if I thought it'd be a toss up. A lot of people critique The Dark Knight Rises, and I know I told you this. I've always been one to kind of defend it. I've been like, why is it so bad again? I enjoy it. Anyway, I'm droning on. What I was gonna say about the choreography is
the choreography.
There's just the Catwoman choreography is great. It's more the Batman stuff where in my head, something I would love about this film is that this movie shows us the first time where it's a Batman villain in this universe where it's just a hand-to-hand combat equal or superior with Bane, where it's just like this guy, he's really smart. He has all these plans and stuff, but he's also just like, he's stronger. He's bigger. Like there's actually like this, Batman can't just punch his way through it, basically, which I think is a really cool part. Even though he thinks he can, that's the whole part with Alfred. He was talking about it when he's going to come back, and he's like, I'll just fight harder and do these things, like he always does. And we see him fall, and obviously rise again. But anyway, So
on the choreography, I think. So I was surprised when you said that, but when I think about it, because of the nature of who Bane is, it's just, fisticuffs. And because it's Batman is older and he thinks, normally he's a brute and he's able to outbrute everyone else. But when he goes up against Bane, you're like even the first time you're watching it, you're like, dude, you can't snap someone's neck as easily as Bane does. Like, what are you doing? So he's going in losing, which, by the way, when he broke his back, I yelled in the theater. I was so happy. I was like,
you were so happy.
When they announced Bane, I was like, I want one thing from this film, and I want the bat to be broken in half. Yeah. That was it. That was the only thing I asked for. I was going to
bring that up. That's just, I have a hard time calling it a great moment because to me, it's like it's an impactly moment where it's like, it just makes me grimace. Yeah. It's just like, oh man, but it's so impactful and it's so just like he just gets wrecked by Bane. But my biggest thing is later in the film, the end of it, where it's like, oh, Batman and Bane are finally going 1v1 again. That fight's just so like clunky and to me, and it's out in the open. That's Batman at 2 p.m. is not a good thing to me. It's not the best way to portray Batman. I mean, it's a fine fighting scene, but it's very just like douche, block, like nothing exciting, nothing really like spectacular. Like the Catwoman stuff I thought was really cool because
so good.
Her on the motorcycle thing just smooth on that thing.
Yeah,
it was
killing
great.
It. So on that final fight scene, you mentioned that Batman at 2 p.m. doesn't really vibe with you. The only reason that I actually do like that scene is because of what it represents in the trilogy.
Yeah.
He's always at night. He's like, I can't go out in the day. But in this movie, he's like, I must die for Gotham.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the choreography of that scene, I was trying to notice how he broke Bane's masks. This respirator.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell. I thought he used his little bat.
I thought he just kind of uppercut and just like popped out.
But he literally beat the dude in the face multiple times in that first fight, and it didn't do anything. And there's no way that he got so much stronger that he was. Or let me rephrase that. There's no way he was so weak beforehand that he couldn't break that respirator punching it.
Yeah. I don't know.
Plot hole.
Yeah, I think it honestly is, and it's just kind of that. It's just an actiony moment where it's like, all right, well, this time he's gonna win, so it breaks.
Win now.
And it is. I mean, one thing about the fighting is that, especially Batman v Bane. Every time I'm like, Batman's outmatched, man. Like this. I mean, just straight up like punching, like just boxing him basically. Where it would have been cool to see like maybe some gadgets, some other stuff. I mean, it's not really a big deal because I think the movie is telling its story, and that's kind of part of it. And you need to see him fall so he can rise,
so he can get back up.
Exactly. I mean, just jumping around here, I forgot about all the twists with Bane and how it's Talia. And
really?
I mean, as I was going along, like when I was like, wait, that's not Bane. I knew the kid wasn't Bane, and then I'm like, oh right. I knew the second I saw her, I knew she was Ra's al Ghul's daughter, but I kind of forgot the whole thing where he was the guardian of her, like he was the protector. I didn't fully remember that, so it's always nice when you sometimes when you forget stuff like that, and then you're like get to enjoy it almost for the first time again, because I'm like, oh right, like this is actually a pretty cool thing. The one thing I think that kind of bothers me, that it kind of takes away from Bane to me a bit at the end, where it's like Talia's now the big bad. It's like, but it was what was Bane like? Bane
muscle.
But he seemed like the mastermind the whole time. Like I feel like there's a significant difference in how cool Bane was when he was in the football field talking and kills that guy to the end where his respirator is like falling out.
Yes,
it was just like kind of like. It's like, all right, that Bane on the football field was like, holy crap, this guy's scary, and I'm gonna kill everyone, and has a plan, and is super powerful. And then later, it's like,
your city.
Also, shout out to the Gotham Steelers. It was like the Pittsburgh Steelers players. From, like,
Hines Ward.
Hines Ward. Hines Ward running back
He's the only one who didn't die.
Yeah, or just fell with us.
R.I.P. man. That was a hard. That's all. Okay, you know what? Let's talk about this. There's a lot of terrorist attacks in this movie.
Honestly, like that's what I was thinking with your topic that you wanted to bring up with Bane. Like that's that to me that's kind of my more takeaway from it. Like this is just like straight up terrorism happening in Gotham.
Yeah, this is a movie that I don't think would fly as well if it came out today, I mean, look what happened with Joker. Joker was like, oh, you're glorifying this. If anyone glorifies it, like between the movies, this movie glorifies it, because Bane, everything Bane says is a truth, and we as the audience know it's the truth. So then it's designed for us to be like, I mean,
especially
wrong.
Yeah, I mean, especially the whole Gordon stuff, where it's like he has been lying, and he reads the letter, and it's like, oh man, this is just bad. It is. They're living on a lie. They're living on a lie.
Living on a lie. I actually wrote down that. Where is it? If Gordon didn't write that stupid letter, the entire Dent revelation would not occur. But they really needed that for moving the plot.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was. It was a plot point. They introduced it earlier. He had it in his coat pocket, and he doesn't read it.
And talking about Gordon, his wife and kids left him to Cleveland. Very important to know, because it really puts him more alone, more isolated. So then when that does come out, like I was like, oh, that's right, he does that. I forgot about that. He wrote the letter. But as I think about it now, it's like, man, he was done. The only friend he had was Batman, and Batman dipped. Like,
yeah, I loved how at the end he does figure out it's Bruce Wayne. I think that was just kind of like one of those fulfilling things. It's like, it's just kind of gratifying, because he was the one throughout these movies that was like working with him and
didn't kind of care.
Yeah,
didn't care who he was. He was just like, you're doing what needs to be done. That's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly. I enjoyed that. I just want to shout out, like we already did, but Anne Hathaway as Catwoman was great. I mean, was just great. Like, perfect. She's a great actress. The character was a lot better than I remembered it being. Like, I didn't for some reason, when I was thinking about this movie, I'm like, oh, right, Catwoman's in it, you know, like Anne Hathaway. But that wasn't like, oh, I can't wait to see her in it. But now it's going to be when I rewatch this film, whenever I do, because I loved her performance.
You want to know why I think she gets hate? She wasn't overly sexualized.
No. And I'm glad she wasn't. She was like,
same. She was this very elegant, like, proper criminal.
And she had a story where she's trying to get off the books. She knows she's been messing up and doing these bad things. And I liked how she was kind of more of like an actual anti-hero, where it's like you didn't know which way she was gonna swing. You know how she tricks Batman the
one thing I really love about this movie is that they design it so that you hate the people that you should trust, and they make you like the people you shouldn't trust. Yeah, like, you know, Miranda Tate. That's a very big one. You know, it's like, oh, Alfred's even mentions, like, I would hook you up with a crash test dummy or whatever it was, right? Or a chimpanzee, as long as it got you out of this bleeding house. Yeah, right. And it's like, oh, okay. And it's hinted like, oh, and they have mad chemistry. Bruce and Selena at multiple points, and so when they keep trying to push Miranda Tate on him, oh, she's very lovely. Yeah, Lucius says that,
and she seems so innocent and nice, and it's like, and she almost. And I think they did a smart way. This is like, I think just looking back, they did kind of a clever storytelling device, or just kind of, you know, directing, where she was always with like a male, older, like, character. If you think about it, she was never like, I feel like she was never really like alone. And she never had that like, oh, she's this strong, like, independent woman so much. She was always with like, you know, Bruce or Lucius or Alfred. And I think just even looking back, I think that was part of how they made her seem like she could never be the mastermind, the Ra's al Ghul's daughter who's going to finish his legacy, which is a very cool, and I think it's a really cool, like, story arc, and obviously is why we said this is a direct sequel in a lot of ways to Batman Begins, because it brings back all the Ra's al Ghul stuff and League of Shadows and makes us think about all these things again. I'm kind of surprised there wasn't a like Thomas Martha Wayne flashback. Maybe they couldn't get the actors, but I feel like that would have been poignant if they really wanted to keep connecting it with Batman Begins, because I feel like that was such a big part of the beginning of Batman Begins and what the Waynes were doing for Gotham. That would have been a cool way to like wrap it all up a bit. That's just not even really a nitpick, just maybe a suggestion for how it could have maybe been better. Like, I would have liked to see even more, because you do get that little glimpse of, you know, Bruce and oh my gosh, Bruce and Commissioner Gordon when he wasn't commissioner, when he was a young child, when he figures it out, and it was cool. Like, I liked seeing the flashbacks from Batman Begins. That one scene there, I would have liked to see more. It's basically
they had that one, the one where his dad comes down. Bruce, why do we fall? So that we can get back up. Good. Yeah, that was nice. And then they used a lot of pictures and stills. Yeah, and I think the reason that they didn't use any of these extra flashbacks is because of that. When you only have a picture to remember somebody by, and you as the audience member, like, you know, especially in our case, we just watched all three of these movies, only seeing a picture of Thomas and Martha and only seeing the picture of Rachel really makes it far more
Harvey too.
Emotional. Yes, Harvey as well. Well, we do get some flashbacks with Two-Face.
That was good. I really liked that.
That was especially right at the beginning. And the beginning of this movie starts with the end of the Dark Knight, with that talk, the beginning of the lie. You know, I believed in Harvey Dent. And then he sits down, and then we flash forward 8 years. Well, we flash forward not 8 years, about 8 years, because it's that plane crash is 6 months before Pavel ends up showing up, the stadium explosion, the terrorist in the football. Yeah, I got there eventually. Some points that I really wanted to make out in the very beginning of the film. Bruce says, "There's nothing out there for me," and that defines Bruce Wayne this entire trilogy. Yeah, there's this little sliver of hope with Rachel, but as soon as Rachel's not available, he has nothing to live for as Bruce Wayne.
I know.
Which is annoying, but it works well in the trilogy, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny you mentioned that, because when I was watching, I'm like, it is a little different than like I think typical Batmans we see, where I think a normal Batman, maybe in like the comics or like even like an animated series, has more kind of just like will to protect Gotham or something. Like just there's more to it. This is his own story for sure. And I think this movie is more about Bruce than last movie was, The Dark Knight.
Yes,
we get a lot of Bruce. We just hit exactly like. He's given up, him holding out for Rachel, like holding out hope. That's long gone, because obviously she's passed away. And even
she did.
Yeah, and Alfred trying to tell him like she wasn't going to choose you anyway, basically, and he doesn't even buy it. He's like, "Come on, like you're just trying to." And it's
when the waterworks started.
It's hard. I mean, I don't know. The Rachel thing, they honestly they could have built that up a bit more. I think, in my opinion, like even in The Dark Knight, I think so anyway. Because in The Dark Knight, I feel like he's sort of content with the whole Harvey thing. It's like not content, but it's not like he's like, you don't see him really bugging him that much. But it's not like, I think just like we get it because we're paying attention to the movie, and you almost have to like put it together. Like, oh yeah, he really cared about her. But just like I think casually, it's not, you don't see that many. I don't know, scenes of them together or like stuff like that. I think their relationship almost in Batman Begins was worked on more than I think. That's what I'm saying with the direct sequel from the first to the third. It almost feels like the directors changed in a way, because there is more like plot connections, I think, between 1 and 3 than between 1, then 2, then 3. Like they really do a lot of connecting between the two, between 1 and 3.
Like we mentioned last week, there's rumors that the third one was going to be very Joker-centric. So it was going to continue on. But once Joker was gone, he had to come up with a new villain. And what better? I mean, if you're not going to be able to tie it in, because the actor died for Joker and Harvey Dent is dead. So you really can't tap into the Dark Knight that much more, except take the themes and the consequences and move it on. Over 8 years. And what better way to continue your trilogy and kind of hone it back together than pull from the movie you do have lore with, and you can tap into more
That's a good point.
easily.
Yeah, that is a really good point. Oh, I want to point out this comment by Ryan. The score in The Rises is so good. Hans Zimmer is great. I completely agree.
Yes.
Throughout the entire trilogy, it's great. This one, I think, might be even the peak of it.
It's peak. It's easy peak, because
never mind.
No, what were you gonna say? I
was gonna say, even in like the jail, the music when we're down there and he's trying to climb and them chanting, like very impactful. Like I think great. Like yeah, exactly.
Just like the drums, baby.
It's so good. And just when he actually is back as Batman, we're getting the swell. I love that kind of stuff. It's definitely like I'm a sucker for it, and we definitely get it in this film.
Yes, I agree. This is peak, and it's peak to me because it's the first one is good, and it slowly builds up the Batman theme. And then in The Dark Knight, it has the Batman theme, and it adds little bits of things here and there, and it takes that tension music, and they bring it back, and they change it just enough so that it makes you feel worse. Like I felt worse in the scenes where they were playing that music because of what was happening.
Yeah.
And I suppose it was the subject matter. And then adding in the drums was a great nuance for it. And it really just added this guttural survival feeling in a lot of spaces. I don't know if I have it written down. I think I did, but basically Hans Zimmer is the fracking man is what I wrote.
Yeah.
I want to talk. Where is it? One thing I want to mention about Blake is he deduces who Batman is.
Yeah,
very quick as a young kid. And that is very much like Tim Drake in the comics. So they pulled that part of him in. The fact that he is a detective and then throws away his detective and kind of assumes the mantle of Batman, it seems, at the
yeah.
end. That is a very Dick Grayson thing.
Mhm.
Living in a boys' home is a very Jason Todd thing. So
He's kind of an amalgamation.
It's it's a well-crafted amalgamation.
Yeah.
When it first came out, a lot of people were like, man, I was like, I mean, it is what it is. He's not Robin to me. But watching it again, I'm like, man, like he very much is a great representation of what Robin is as a character.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's just Blake the whole time, and then you find out at the end his name is Robin, it's like, that's cool, man. Like, that's a nice nod to the comics. Yeah. I'm glad they didn't do a Robin in this universe because he would have died, which would have been fucking awesome, man. Like, I think if Joker comes back, the only way to up the ante is to bring Robin in and have Joker kill him in the middle. Oh, baby. Can we get Death in the Family on screen? Like, can we allow that? Oh, my God. Terry just said, oh, my God, baby. Me too. I'm still waiting on that Nightwing trilogy. Me too, bro. Me too. Like, yes, please. So I did remember that Talia was Tate the entire time. So in the beginning of the movie, when she and Bruce talk, and it's, it's all about the hag who blah 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 blah. It's like, I put this on and I paid for the spread myself.
Right.
What she says to him is like, you put all this time and money and effort into this, and as soon as it fails, you go home and hide away in your castle. And it's like, ooh, like it has so much extra meaning remembering that she's Talia, because she knows who he really is the entire movie. Just like, and that's something that's really cool about this movie is no one knows who he is in Batman except for a couple people. Dark Knight, no one knows who he is. And then they kill off, except for Rachel and Alfred, and they kill off Rachel. So it's only Alfred that knows. And, well, Lucius. We know that Lucius kind of knows.
Lucius knows. knows. But then they bring in 3 characters who right away are just like, I already knew who he was. Yeah, Bane's like, oh, hi, Bruce.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to break your back
Mr. Wayne. And then we get some great acting from Anne Hathaway there, because she's just like there, like, and then it says Mr. Wayne, and she's like, oh, my God, like, he's going to die.
Yeah,
like, he's going to die, and now I feel bad because he's actually like not a person, a prick.
Yeah.
I love the little when they're talking on the rooftop. Which hold on, I forgot about the cat and bat fight 50 minutes in, which is like Batman's first reemergence. I forgot that. That was great. That was probably the best fight choreography in the entire movie. Like,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I agree.
In terms of fighting. But when they're talking on the roof and she dips out and he goes, oh, so that's what that feels like.
Like, yeah.
I love that so much.
Yeah. I like how it's like no guns.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how much like
we don't kill. Where's the fun in that? It's a brilliant plan. So the one thing that I love about this movie is the villain plan is so good throughout this entire movie. It takes a literal army to actually undo everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like remembering Talia is the bad guy the entire time. She's trying to get this energy from him for years.
Yeah.
And to go to the stock market, sell all of his stocks, make it to where he has no choice but to give it over to Miranda Tate is chef's kiss brilliant, because then she has complete access to it, knows where it is. All she has to do, which, by the way, Bane already knew where it was.
Yeah.
But now she has this extra access to it to then be able to do things a lot easier. And then where is it? I have another point on that plot. That's not it. Wow. I lost it.
Did you want to get into the kind of the Bane argument you had, or like the big Bane point?
Yes. I flipped over to the back side of my paper. For Talia, since we were talking about her sleeping with Bruce at the moment of his lowest point in life is a cold, calculated bitch ass move.
Yeah.
but it is so comic accurate that I love it so much because she does that in the comics all the time. That's how Damian Wayne shows up. She sleeps with him, then takes his blood, and then makes a clone. Like, what? I might be wrong on that sequence of events. That might have been. Anyways, that was so fantastic. Bane's monologue while kicking Batman's butt is next level, and then he breaks the bat.
Yeah.
This is probably not even 2/3 of the way through the movie, and I just ran out of notes to take because I was so captivated.
Yeah.
So I have a couple, one more really awesome point is I love the makeshift court that they have.
Yeah.
And it is very
Someone
accurate.
shouted it out earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, Terry shouted it out, and so did Ryan Permison. Excuse me. I love the makeshift court, and it is so accurate to comics and Arkham City.
Yeah.
And I would have loved for Dent to do it, but I 100% forgot that it was Scarecrow leading it.
Yeah. I know.
When he showed up and he's talking, he's got the gray in his stubble. I'm like, brilliant, dude.
I love how he pops up in all three films.
He's the only character. And let me find that quote from Terry. Seeing Cillian Murphy appear as Crane and Scarecrow again to round out his own trilogy was awesome.
Yeah.
And I agree. Like, he's the only villain who shows up in all three movies. He's the only one who doesn't die.
Yeah.
Actually, like, think about that.
Yeah, literally.
Wild. So, the last quick note, last two quick notes. Where's the trigger? Had to. He's always asking where something is. Where are the other drugs going? And then, where is she? And of course, where's the trigger man? Where is it? Where is it? I love. If you have not watched College Humor's Badman videos, please do. They make fun. I can't listen to him do these without thinking of that, especially because he says certain words the exact same way that he does in the show, in the comic, or in the sketches. And it's like, oh, that's what that is like. And it's like, dude, all I hear is the comedy. So, fans, I want you to. Did I turn this up? I did not. I'm just yelling. I apologize, everyone. I have a couple questions about this movie, and one of them is in reference to all of the terrorism, the fact that Bane speaks the truth. When I was watching it, I was buying into Bane more than I ever have as a character, and it made me wonder, do you think Bane could destroy American society today if he or someone like he were to pop up and start terrorizing the entire country and revealing a litany of lies and corruption? Do you think that he has the potential and the ability to take down American society? Yeah. David, thoughts?
It's a good point. I think because of his radical terrorist-like ways, it would not. But the point that in this, like, that would have to be a larger scale, right? Like, this is just Gotham. This is just a Gotham, small, like, corruption in Gotham with the Gotham government. And I see what you're saying, but I don't think so. Like, as a whole, like, I don't think there'd be enough theoretically, but just because he's so radical, like, I think that, like, in his ways, like, if he was just like, hey, let's, like, do this somewhat, like, right way, whatever the right way would be, but you're exposing these lies and stuff like that, not like killing people just randomly at will and, you know, locking everyone on an island and gonna blow up the whole place just because Gotham has to burn. All of that, like, I don't think that would fly. But I think it's a fun conversation. It's an interesting argument because he does, especially because this is like basically it's 8 years after Harvey Dent's death. It's like, wow, nearly a decade of just living on a lie. You know, it's powerful, and you definitely feel the effect in the film, and you feel the effect from just the ending of Dark Knight to this movie, where it's like they come up with this plan, they do it. and now they're facing their ramifications 8 years later, which is, I think it's a great, I mean, not to get right into, you know, our like the trilogy, but I think it does a good job of capping off the trilogy in that storyline. And that is from the Dark Knight to the Dark Knight Rises. So.
Yes. I'm going to counterpoint you.
Yes.
So, you know that there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there about a lot. I mean, it's life in the 21st century. Holy crap. I forgot which one we're in for a moment. So I look at it like this. They continuously, let's just use JFK for an example.
Okay.
Whatever the reasons for the JFK assassination were, no matter who did it, I think that if someone came out and started threatening the lives of American citizens,
yes,
you would have a large amount of people who would be like, oh, they're threatening us, but we've been under threat this entire time. And in the movie, he releases criminals. Like, they release the criminals because they are unjustly locked up, like legally speaking, which is, as we know in American society, justice is not always fair. And it often is very easily corruptible. And I think that in this movie, the way they portray Bane and the tactics with which he utilizes, he's spreading because the whole point is he gives them hope. You can survive this all. You just have to follow the plan.
Right.
And there's a lot of people who would buy that. I mean, look at America right now. You got people, you know, everything that we see these days is nothing more than propaganda. Like, everything that I see, I look at with 25% possibility that there's truth in it. Like, I'm so skeptical. There's doctors coming out now that are getting all these airwaves on places and like, oh, they keep taking videos down. Okay. I understand that they're taking videos down, but they're saying that they've been trying to speak out for a while. Why did it take until now? It's fishy to Thomas.
Right.
Why now? Why now? And Republicans folks are, why is all of a sudden we're doing this and we're doing that and we're wearing masks and blah, blah, blah. Masks aren't going to do this. My favorite quote is, of course, my body, my rights. Okay, pro-lifers. Like, if you're going to say my body, my rights, you better use that across the board for equality. I think that, especially seeing what's happened in America since March, if someone came out right now, started blowing up key points in the city, or excuse me, in the country, taking people out, threatening them, which, I mean, honestly,
I just don't see where people would be like, hey, I'm going to follow you.
Like, dropping every single, listing the reasons why JFK was assassinated. Are you kidding me?
People wouldn't believe, because like you said, there's so many conspiracies and there's so much noise these days. People would just be like, this guy's
people will believe whatever they want to believe. And
yeah,
there's enough people. Well, there's enough people in this country who don't believe in vaccination.
Well, yeah.
Right.
I'm just saying, like, just for some guy to come out and start saying these things that you can't just, like, you can't show like straight up proof of. Like, say, like Anonymous, like when they were jumping all that stuff on like Twitter and things like that. It's like, you got to take it with a grain of salt. And that's kind of, I feel like, what people would. And if he was killing people as well, they'd be like, all right, like, at least most people, I think, would be like, we can't take his word for it. It makes you think you might believe what he's saying, but you don't want to be like.
All he would have to do is take over Fox News, CNN, and NBC. Get control of who decides what the stories are, and it's game over.
Right. Because
it's all propaganda. It's all absolute bullshit. I trust nobody in this country except for me.
You don't trust me?
Well, I trust you, but you're not spreading around senseless propaganda to fit a political agenda. You're just like, oh my God, let's watch movies again. Like, it's
literally.
Like, if the least that we have to do to get to movies is wear a mask and wash our hands, why are people not wanting to do that?
Put on the mask.
They're talking about society, and I think society is getting to a point where and I've been saying this for a couple of years, I think society is getting to a point where all it's going to take is the wrong explosion, and all of a sudden it will A, start to crumble, and B, everyone will turn on each other. And in the movie, they do a really good job of the criminals are running the streets now.
Yeah.
But if you pay attention, the bellhops for some of these restaurants, I'm sorry, not restaurants, hotels, thank you. They're there like, oh my God, what are we doing? And then in the very next scene, they're dragging out tenants and beating them in the streets. It does not take a lot to change someone's opinion when they are weak-willed.
It's like conform or die at that point, or like, or be the one to like be going to exile.
And you don't think that that's not something that would change people in America?
Okay, I see what you're saying.
that is my point of the whole argument is we're basically at the exact point where if somebody came in, boom, hold on, Terry, thank you. This is a great way to sum it up. Actually, all anyone needs is a little push and they'll end up eating each other. That's a great way to sum up my argument because it's true.
Yeah.
Everybody is one bad day away from becoming literally insane.
It's also a good point that he's making because that ties in like how this is a sequel to The Dark Knight too.
Yeah,
like it's true because that's a poignant line, obviously, in The Dark Knight, and that you're seeing that put to fruition in this movie. Like you're kind of seeing that come to light.
And you see it on both sides because all Selena Kyle needed was someone to believe that she's better than what she portrays. Yeah. So it's a double-edged sword.
And I love how Bruce like sees that in her like pretty immediately. He's not just like, he sees it like immediately, like, oh, like she's not that bad, or like there's like a curiosity there, not just like a curiosity to take her down, but a curiosity to be like, what's she about? Like, what's her story? What motivates her exactly? And he kind of like he sees like who she really is, and you see that. I mean, at the end, talking about the ending, I know we want to talk about that, of course, before we get into our final rankings. Is they end up together, it seems like, which I think is a really cool way to finish off this trilogy. Where, of course, in this movie, we get the setup of Michael Caine, Alfred saying how he goes to vacation every once in a while, and at this one cafe, he always his dream, like his dream was when Bruce was away the first time back in Batman Begins, when we saw him like away for so long, that he'd go there and he'd be there living his life. They wouldn't talk to each other or anything, but he'd know he made it. We get that at the end of this movie, and it's awesome in my opinion. It's great. It comes full circle. It's like this movie is different. I think like this trilogy is different than the comics in the way that like he can just kind of quit as Batman. It's like that's the story they're telling. It's like he doesn't like. It's about Bruce, not really about Batman. Almost like
yes, and I agree with that.
Like the Batman's just like it is just his alter ego. Really, it's not really who he should be or what he like almost is like put on Earth to be. It's like almost just what he was doing and like needed to be at the time. And in part of him probably didn't need to be doing some of what he was doing at the time. He just like had that revenge that we saw boiling in him in the first one. And all that sort of thing, the pride and that built over time. You could see it, obviously. But ego. So I know you wanted to say, is Bruce Wayne dead? And I'm curious what your thoughts are and like why you wanted to pose that question.
So I wanted to pose the question simply because there are people like that. That was a big question after the movie. And it seems
like it in like not before the very ending. It's like
everyone's like, and that's the thing. They're like, oh, is that a dream sequence? What is this? And I'm like, I wanted to ask it because I remember that being a thing. And I wanted to know if anyone in our comments felt the same way. I thought it was I also, before I say what I'm about to say, when it comes to Inception, I will die on the hill that I know how the movie's ending. And it's not as, oh, what is it kind of ending. It's a very cut and dry, simple answer. And all you got to do is pay attention to the scenes with the top when it spins. Never does it wobble. And I will die on that hill. And I'm probably going to end up we're slowly starting to get to the point where we need to create trilogies. So we might have to do a Nolan standalone trilogy, and that would be,
We're
the
not getting to that
Prestige.
point. We have so many trilogies to do.
Well, I'm just thinking for like a good Nolan trilogy: Prestige,
Right.
Inception, Tenet. Interstellar is a good option, but I think Memento. But I think Tenet is Interstellar was a good way of messing with time travel, but Tenet's going to deal with a quantum level of things. And if you look at the Prestige,
if we ever get that film,
in 2784. So I'm proposing that we do a Nolan trilogy: The Prestige, Inception, and Tenet. I think those would be really a solid Christopher Nolan trilogy.
Yeah, if Tenet's good, which I'm sure it will be.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be too. A lot of people were like arguing why that Bruce was actually dead at the end, and that was all just a dream, and it was a figment of his imagination. And I will die on the hill that Bruce is very much alive.
Yeah.
And I had the question written down and I was ready for it, but they even mention it in the ending that, oh, it's been patched 6 months ago, sir.
Yeah.
Who did it? Bruce Wayne. And he gets that smirk. He's like, oh, he's alive.
Yeah, like I think it's cool. I think it's very Christopher Nolan that the ending is kind of you don't see him like pop out the hatch of the plane or anything like that. Like it's so there is that debate and there is that question there. But I think exactly like I was thinking the same thing when I was watching them. I'm like, oh right, they'd leave it up for debate. But then in my mind, same as you, when it's Lucius is like, oh wait, like the science says Bruce Wayne fixed it 6 months ago. It's like, okay, that's the answer. And then you see him, so then that's the answer. In my head, like that's the answer, and I think it's actually pretty cut and dry. And I think Christopher Nolan would say the same thing. Like he wouldn't have put that Lucius scene with the scientist if it hadn't been. He would have taken that scene out and done what he did. Then I think like there's more of a debate. But the way they handled it, to me, it was like, all right, it's pretty clear that he popped out. He escaped the plane before and let it fly. Somehow. And when we saw him, yeah, exactly. And when we saw that close up shot of him, it was before that explosion, like well before.
See,
it probably.
I'm wondering if he was in another bat.
Yes,
autopiloting it, like using it as a drone, basically.
And maybe, he was just flying flying away forever.
Yes. Have we? Is it in this movie that the Batmobile, or in this trilogy, do we see that the Batmobile can be remote controlled? I don't remember.
No.
Okay.
Not in this trilogy.
That's okay. Well, that takes that idea away. Terry McIver says Bruce Wayne is dead. The man is very much alive, living a new life, which is very true because of the clean slate.
So Thomas, do you want to kind of get into our rankings for this trilogy and kind of some thoughts on that? But before,
one final thing. This is my favorite scene in the whole movie. And it's the one that I remembered the most.
Yeah.
It's the funeral for Bruce Wayne. And Michael Caine is standing there and you can hear him like crying. And then he moves over and you see that he's buried next to his parents. And he's just sitting there. He's standing there and he's like, I'm sorry. You trusted me and I failed you.
Yeah.
And I'm just instantly, I started crying.
Great acting.
That was the picture. That was the picture I sent you because I couldn't stop crying after that. I was like, God, he kills it. He's so good. I cried one more time in this movie at another point, and I don't remember what it was. But out of the three, two of them were Michael Caine. It was when he talks about Rachel, and as soon as he mentioned, he's like, well, what if she wasn't? And I started crying, and I was like, oh, dude, that's right. And then like you can see it on his face. He's like, I know what this means, and I will be gone. And it's like, oh, but the real reason that got me crying is because my grandmother was British and Michael Caine is very old in this movie. And when they were crying, from the brow to the bottom of the nose was very similar to how my grandma looked when she cried. And that broke me even more.
Yeah.
So back on to happier things, David, how would you rank this trilogy?
my ranking for the Dark Knight trilogy goes as such. Number 1, The Dark Knight. Easy, 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 easy. Number 2, The Dark Knight Rises, which also to me is easy. And number 3 is Batman Begins, in my opinion. Batman Begins to me has the weakest third act easily. And I think that has, and honestly, that's just the weakest act in any of these movies. Like out of any point, I think that's like the worst. I think like hour of the Dark Knight trilogy happens in Batman Begins, and it's surprising because I enjoyed the beginning of Batman Begins, where people would typically call it slow, more than later when he's actually Batman. A lot of it, and like when Ra's comes back, I don't know. That movie's a bit more disjointed, which is crazy because it's the shortest one. It's almost the most simple in a way, but there's still a lot happening.
It feels the longest.
Yeah, exactly. Which is crazy because this movie's so like Dark Knight Rises is so long, but they do so much and they introduce so many different characters, and it's surprisingly enjoyable to watch for the length that it is and the not so quick paced. I mean, it's not incredibly quick paced. I mean, it moves, of course, but it's not like rapid fire. Like there's still a lot of development, a lot of time taken to do some like have some character moments and all these certain things. But obviously the Dark Knight period is my number 1. It's one of my favorite comic book movies as a whole. I think it's one of the best comic book films ever. As we've said, you know, check out last week's episode 17. Like it just stands alone. This movie, The Dark Knight Rises, I think even like furthers that argument that it stands alone, because this one doesn't really stand alone. Talking about, you know, trilogies and movies within a trilogy. And it's surprisingly rewatchable to me. Like this movie, it's so long, but I enjoy the characters. I enjoy the plot, just the story of it. I just like, I can sit back and be entertained. You know, I was entertained. It's not boring to me. But The Dark Knight, one of the greatest movies, like, I mean, almost period in my head, because I'm just so in this realm, but especially comic book movies and especially Batman films. So, Thomas, what is your ranking? What are your final thoughts on our trilogy of trilogies, The Dark Knight?
Before I do that, I noticed something that I forgot to mention. Very important. It's just a tidbit that I think is very important to why, like, this trilogy is so unique. From Batman Begins to The Dark Knight, it's 1 year. From The Dark Knight to The Dark Knight Rises, it's 8 years.
Right.
So he's only Batman for a single year, give or take. And he is that beaten up, that broken after a year of doing what Batman was doing. And it sounds like for 8 years he was a shut-in and didn't do anything. And his body deteriorated. It adds to the realism. And it tells you why no one's ever become Batman.
Right.
Now, 2 weeks ago, after Batman Begins, I said, oh, quote me on this. I'm pretty sure, we'll see how we get in 2 weeks, but I'm pretty sure my ranking is 2-1-3 because I forgot how much I like Batman Begins.
Right. We did enjoy that movie.
That shit changed so hard. It is 2-3-1.
Yep.
And really, it's just, you know, I could knock down 2 a little bit because of its inability to fit in the trilogy. Like if you because you can watch it by itself,
right. Because we're ranking it as a trilogy.
As a trilogy, you can watch it by itself. You don't need the first, you don't need the third, but it's so good that that doesn't even matter. But the way it does tie into the trilogy, you know, like they pull elements from the first one. First off, Scarecrow shows up. We have Jim Gordon. That relationship builds and prospers even more, and the whole he wants to wait for Rachel thing, and then Rachel dies, and they have the thing, and that sets up everything for The Dark Knight Rises and why he ends up the way he does. So it doesn't fit in the trilogy in the sense that other movies fit into the trilogy. Like Back to the Future, they fit into a trilogy really well.
Yeah.
But it stands alone, and yet you cannot watch the movie, like the trilogy. You can't watch Batman Begins and then just watch The Dark Knight Rises.
No.
Like it's a very crucial point because
It's a
thematically,
yeah,
it's a pivot. Thematically, it changes everything about all of these characters.
Yeah.
The plot and general quality of 2 is amazing. Rewatchability is top notch. How well it holds up, holy crap, it gets better with age.
Yeah.
Number 3, I think the plot might be better, just because, you know, in terms of Joker, his plan is anarchy and all this stuff.
Mhm.
But with Bane and Talia, it's a very specific plot point, and where Joker has all these contingencies if stuff goes wrong, or he designs it to go wrong. Even nothing went wrong in their plan. It went exactly as planned, and everything they did to try to stop it was a part of the plan.
Yeah.
Similar to Joker, but less archaic in how it was done. It wasn't a twist situation. It was, well, okay, there was the, oh my God, they're sending them into the tunnels. That was like a twist for the plot, which I'd forgotten about. But once you get to that point, it's not like, oh my God, like they killed Rachel. It's like, oh, okay. And then you get a time gap of like 3 or 4 or 5 months or however many long it is. Rewatchability. This movie is probably just as rewatchable as The Dark Knight. It holds up well. The story is great. The characters are written very well. And it culminates the trilogy perfectly. The final act of Batman Begins is why it's the third. It's the worst.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the only bad part of this entire trilogy to me.
I know. That's what I was like alluding to. It really is. I mean, there's some,
and you still need it.
Yeah.
It's because
it's the execution of it, in my opinion.
Yes. I think it's because the first act and how they use the nonlinear storytelling to explain the origin and get to that point where he's Batman.
Better. Like the last part just feels lazy to me.
It does. It feels like, okay, we got here. Now we're just truncating along. We have Batman, blah, 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 blah.
Cookie cutter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is surprising in this trilogy, because it's not cookie cutter at all. Like even just Bruce as a superhero he's not at all a cookie cutter superhero or a Batman, really. Like he his character is just struggling like the whole trilogy, really. I mean, he's just a tormented guy who's also Batman.
and you know, this might not be the right time for this, because we've already said that Bale is not a great, like, we don't think he's the best Batman, but I think that the fact that he is so tortured is why people from, you know, we're not that much different in age, but we're different just enough that it's a whole different generation. That I think that's why people in your generation, you know, our friend from work is good old Camps. She's like, Bale's the best Batman. And I think your generation has grown up in a time of immense self-deprecation, under immense stress and pain and tense life in American society. You know, a lot of you guys don't remember life before 9/11. I do. And so like 9/11 is The Dark Knight, a huge pivot in reality. So I think that's why your generation is all in on Bale being the best Batman, because they connect with him emotionally. And if they could put aside their own pain and then inflict that pain upon others to help society, they would want to. Yeah. But we're not rich.
Right.
Or geniuses.
Exactly.
All right. Before we move on, because everything in the comments that we're about to run through here is about the movie. Ryan wanted to ask, which is a better origin story, Batman Begins or Joker?
Joker, 100%. Book it.
Overall, Joker.
It's not. I mean, like an easy answer, but I just love Joker. I think the movie's better, so like that's why it was the immediate answer.
If it weren't for the final act of the Batman stuff being very white bread and cookie
Joker is so good.
Exactly. Like it gets better as that movie goes on. Batman Begins gets to a specific point, and then it's like, all right, man, we peaked.
Yeah.
Ryan Permison has said Cillian Murphy was great as Scarecrow. We all concur with that.
Yep.
Where is it at? Glad you guys enjoyed the film. It gets a lot. Yes, it gets a lot of unnecessary hate for some reason. And I think it's A, because it had to follow The Dark Knight.
Yes.
B,
Bane.
Catwoman wasn't as sexualized as people wanted. C, Bane.
Yeah.
And I understand why Bane, because he's not comic accurate. And it is kind of weird, his voice. But he's a good Bane. He's a good interpretation of Bane.
Cool character. I think he's a good character. I think it's just people's like expectations for what Bane is like, and exactly coming off the Joker, coming off the Dark Knight. And it's hard to be the main villain in the next movie coming off of the Dark Knight when you have that Joker and that Harvey Dent. I mean, come on.
And I think some people looked at Robin Blake, as a cop-out situation.
People did not like that character. I enjoyed that character.
Yeah, I thought he was a good character. I'm like, oh, his name's Robin? That's a cool nod to, all the comics and stuff. I want a sequel with him in the fracking bat suit or Nightwing.
I think the quick answer to that, like the hate, is a lot because of the comic. It's not really based much on the comics. They take like a lot of movies, but this more so, they take a lot of the comic like characters and stuff, and he does his own thing with them. Like the Robin, like Bane, even like Batman's story, even Catwoman to some degree, like we said.
Exactly. Yeah. This is like a take on the Dark Knight Returns, and it does its own thing.
And even then,
even then, it's loosely, which all of this entire way is loosely based on comics.
Right. Anyway,
let's see. Getting away from the serum that makes Bane super strong was a great move. I love the fact they gave him more intelligence than what he is credited with in other forms of the character, and I fully concur. And the weird part is that in the Harley Quinn series, he sounds like this Bane, but he's a literal idiot. So that's a bummer. During our discussion, Terry said some idiot made a quote on live TV about ingesting bleach, and a doctor standing right there didn't speak out due to not wanting to lose their job. He's on board with me saying Bane would take out America.
Right.
The downfall of this last film, this is Willow Skylar. I haven't been saying names. I apologize. The downfall of this last film is they introduced too many characters. Not enough chance for the character to develop for a few of them. Joseph Gordon-Levitt needed more time to develop into his role as quote-unquote Robin. She would love to have seen him as Nightwing. I agree. I would have loved to have seen him as Nightwing, but I think they gave us just enough for us to
care about the character.
Connect and care about the character. It's like, oh, he's obviously smart. He deduced that Bruce Wayne is Batman. He's also an orphan. He's also had to go through that trauma, and he's a cop, and he literally only tries to do good things and tries. And he as a cop is willing to do stuff that. Yeah, he's against the corruption. Like at the end when he throws the badge off, which I forgot they blew the bridge. That was an amazing moment. And then the last is my mom has not seen the Joker movie. That's okay. You'll see it eventually. Now that wraps up the Dark Knight trilogy, and wow. Yeah. Great.
It's been a fun ride. It was honestly better than I expected as a full trilogy. I think a lot of because we really enjoyed. I mean, we both put Batman Begins at last place in this trilogy, but we enjoyed that movie. I mean, go back and listen to episode 16. We really liked that film. Just the ending for us, it kind of fell off. And The Dark Knight's The Dark Knight. I think that kind of was expected. Almost the most like boring one to talk about in a way because we all know how great it is. And you can't just like hot take I don't like it. Like there's no way.
It's hard to get a hot take on that movie.
Yeah, and then The Dark Knight Rises. I think both
surprised us.
Blew out our expectations from what we expected. I think rewatching it again, and really enjoyed this trilogy. Can't wait for Star Wars 4, 5, and 6 is our next trilogy of trilogies. In 2 weeks, we will be beginning Star Wars A New Hope. So gear up for that. Go watch A New Hope if you want to. That's what we'll be discussing in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks. And we'll get to what we're going to do in next week in just a moment. But first, David, where can everybody find you?
Yeah, so you guys can find me at my name, David Thompson, on Facebook, at David J. Thompson on Instagram and TikTok, and then at David Thompson with 2 A's in the David on Twitter. Thomas, what about you?
You can find me at Thomas Carter Rochester -actor on Facebook, at Thomas Carter Rochester, all one word, no hyphens, no spaces on Instagram, TC Rochester ACT, that is TC Rochester Act on the Twitter. And of course, you can find me doing my Thor gimmick on Life of Thor on the YouTubes. What am I, 40? On YouTube at Life of Thor. If you search Thor Watches The Mandalorian, you'll be able to find that. And because my hard drive is alive, I think I'm going to go back through all of those videos and cut together bloopers because I need to laugh at myself. I thought about it when it was dying. I was like, I'm going to make a promise to myself to get these bloopers out because I can do a bunch of bloopers from each episode, or I can do one super cut. We'll see what happens. Of course, you can also, you're watching us. If you are watching us right now, you're either watching on the HWWS WebTV YouTube channel, which has a litany of content, which I highly recommend you scour about and watch and support our friends, or you're watching it on our Lights Thunder Action Show Facebook page, which is where we go live on both of those every weekend. You can also follow us on Twitter at LTA Podcasting. That is a action. You're the journalism major. What is that? Is that not a verb? Podcasting?
Podcasting, that would be a verb.
It's a verb. David, what do you have to promote this week, sir?
Yeah, guys. So I have another podcast. It's called Double Down Debates. It is a sports podcast. Obviously, two of my greatest loves are film, especially comic book movies, and sports. So I actually recently just put up a episode on. It is on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It is Double Down Debates. You can go subscribe at either of those places. It's just an audio podcast. You can check it out there. I recently just posted up a podcast. It's just me talking about the return of the NBA, which just kicked off the other day. So go check that out if you want to. Thank you so much. Thomas, what do you have to promote?
There it is. And I forgot to look at the show notes for a second. HarleCon 2020 is exactly 2 weeks away from today. On that weekend, our show will be on the Sunday, August 16th. That's right. Because HarleCon goes from 11 a.m. until some point in the evening. It is all through Zoom. There's a different amount of fun. There's a fun selection of panels. We have vampire panels, supernatural panels, podcast panels. There's I will be on a few panels, one of which is Hello There, a Star Wars panel, as well as a What We Do in the Shadows panel. I will be on the podcast Super Show at 8 p.m. Eastern, and I'm trying to talk this guy into joining us because it's going to be an absolute shit show. And it's hosted by Josh Bauer of JBauerArt, who I was on his this past week, and a lot of other things as well coming up that are in the works. Nerd Culture with Ryan Permerson has a DC debate where they eliminate characters that you're not allowed to use for the Justice League and the Legion of Doom, and you have to select your list, and then they debate, and I'm a special judge. And if you want to learn a lot more about HarleCon, because I went through a little bit here, this Tuesday on the Legend of the Traveling Tardis Facebook page and live on the HWWS WebTV channel, a few of us from HarleCon will be on there to talk about what we have, what we're bringing to it, so that you can learn a lot more about HarleCon 2 weeks away. David, are you excited to tell everyone about next week's show?
Yes. So as you guys have been hearing, we are taking a bye week, as I like to call it, from Trilogy of Trilogies. That's why we added six movies, trilogies, for our next tournament of trilogies, because next week we are doing something different.
We are doing something.
We're going to be doing an interview. We haven't really decided. We'll see what the news will probably still be there. But we will be interviewing. Well, we don't know exactly, but we'll probably be interviewing for sure Rodney Fike and Iman Hill, and then possibly help me with the name here. Tina
Mick
Killian.
I'm
Maybe
so yes, Tina. I'm sorry, I'm not good at reading. It looks like McKinney, but
yes.
I don't know.
Thomas, why are we interviewing them?
We are interviewing them because they are a creative team behind the comic of Roadkill Rampage. A Kickstarter is live right now, which will have all of that information. It's live for 3 more weeks. So next week, you'll be able to join that. We actually get to read it ahead of time. So I'm very excited to dive into it. The art is holy balls, man. It is amazing art. And it looks like a really, really good story. We're going to be learning about why they created it, how the process was, what it's like to actually create a comic book, because I'm in the filmmaking industry. You're a writer, but I don't know how comic books are put together, really.
Yeah,
so
I'm very
fun to learn
curious.
that.
Yeah, because I've always thought of even dreamt of making my own comic, just because it seems like such a fun idea and something I'd really enjoy. So super exciting. I think it'll be a nice little break between our trilogies. It's in a nice time after The Dark Knight Rises and in between A New Hope. So I hope you guys still come down to join us. We'll probably still have What the News. It'll just be more of our kind of main topic for next week. It'll be a bit of a different kind of show, but still very Lights, Thunder action, still very Lights, Thunder action. And before we go, I wanted to, I knew I forgot to put something in the show notes. Sure.
That'll be brought to you by nsclivetv.com and Inked Marketing. They're helping us. We are a part of the NSC team. But they've added Lights, Thunder action to their carousel of podcasts. He has a much better name. Kevin Gillette has a much better name. It's fantastic, but I don't remember it, and I just closed my phone. So it's basically they take these creative teams for these comics and they put them on podcasts, and they go around like a concert tour. It's like a press tour. And it gets eyes on their book, and it brings eyes to our show. And it really just gives us the opportunity to do something different than our normal everyday show, which we've been talking about getting guests on. And this is it. This is the first one. It's very exciting. So
and it's a very cool reason to have a guest on. I feel like before we've been discussing let's do a guest, let's just do one. But this is actually going to be something that's real, and I think serves a greater purpose and helps them, talk about their creative process and just, promote their book. So very exciting, super excited for next week. I think it'll be very fun, maybe something we keep up. And
yes, I think it'll be something we keep up, because he's already talking about who he's going to bring on for us next. So very exciting. And we also, Terry has been pushing. Terry McIver, for those of you that don't know, is actually in the comments he told us how to say these names. Tina McElhenney, and it's Eamon. I'm so glad I was right about that. Eamon Hill. Shout out to Game of Thrones for teaching me how to say Eamon.
True.
But Terry is our social media guru, if you will, and he's been pushing to get a friend of his who has never seen the original Star Wars trilogy, has seen the other 6 films, but not the original trilogy. So we're in discussions.
Perplexing.
So mind-boggling. Like it's like, it hasn't seen Star Wars. I mean, I know some people hasn't seen those 3, but saw the others. That's like watching Batman Begins and then The Dark Knight Rises. Like huge. So we might even have more guests on and guest reviewers.
It's like watching all the MCU movies without the Avengers.
Really quick, I think that's part of why The Dark Knight Rises got a little bit of hate, because it came out in 2012 and Marvel was proving that you can have fun. And that was kind of the end of really gritty stuff for a few years. So
it's true.
It might be a reason into it, but honestly, who knows? And this is going to wrap up episode 18 of Lights, Thunder Action. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us in the comments. Adam Irizarry, I'd send a kiss to you anytime. You're the real Superman. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll see you next week. I need to get the button ready faster. Go vote. Oh, I think I did mention both of those are live right now. Thank you for using the words. Those are live right now. Please go vote. It's going to be a wonderful time seeing who wins.